everybody. Welcome to the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Tailford, joined by Rachel Shackleton.
Hello, hello.
And Jules Gill.
Hey, guys.
And we're going to do a big old Rumours leaky boy type roundup because there's all sorts of stuff for the rest of 2019. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to pick apart the wildest rumours, the things that are, some of them are substantiated, some of them are just let's have fun with a potential announcement, because why not? Mm-hmm. So the first thing that I found, which is the most recent thing, is that EA just renewed the patent for Jade Empire.
They did.
Which is a bit of a deal. Did you guys play it back in the day?
Yes.
I didn't personally, but I heard of the game.
Okay.
Honestly, it's a fantastic title. So if they bring it back, even just as a sort of remaster or a re-release on the current consoles, I'd be more than happy with it. It hasn't aged as well as particularly as I was going to say,
I don't think it's aged very well.
But the animation doesn't look, it leaves much to be desired.
Yes. but still, I mean, one of the good ideas for them to do with that license would be to turn it into a massive online MMORPG.
Yeah.
That would be a good thing for them.
So yeah, if they've renewed the patent, but obviously it doesn't say if it's a sequel or whatever, but if you haven't played Jade Empire, it's one of BioWare's old games, very martial arts focused, very Eastern focused, great idea for a game on paper kind of thing. And a lot of people, it kind of still found its fan base, even though it wasn't as polished or as big as something like a KOTOR.
It's like a cult classic.
Yeah, totally.
Kinda.
But I think there's a lot to mind there, especially with the likes of Neo kind of proving that Eastern architecture is just great to explore. Just give me more Eastern, give me more cool ass temples, give me more of that stuff. So if they do more Jade Empire, the only problem with it is that obviously it's EA renewing it, and I'm like, what if it's a card game or something? What if it's an app
or a mobile game?
We do exist in a world where EA has managed to take something as purely lovely as Dungeon Keeper and turn it into a mobile paywall that was just awful.
With the keeper himself berating you to buy more coins. Got some money for some more? Do you want some tokens, do you? Not to worry. Speaking of EA, though, another thing is the potential of Titanfall 3. Now, I don't know if you guys have been fired into Apex Legends yet.
No,
the new Battle Royale.
I've not. Literally, it was because it was Battle Royale. I've seen loads and loads of people saying this is what Battle Royale should be. It's like, if we haven't even discovered what Battle Royale should be after the year and a half since it's been coming out and about the 20 million games that have been doing it, maybe we should just move away from the concept. Because for me, I was a big fan of... oops, I just hit that. I was a big fan of DayZ back in the day. Then I went to PlayerUnknown's Battleground, fine with that. Then when Blackout came along, I was like, okay, cool, maybe I'm getting a bit sick of this right now. And now Apex Legends drops in, you're like, guys... have you not missed the boat a little bit?
See,
but everyone's saying it's great. But everyone's saying
it is really good. Okay, so I spent a lot of my weekend playing Apex Legends against my better judgment because I just thought, I'm done with the genre.
Is it kind of like Overwatch but with permadeath?
It's just, it's Titanfall's game engine, so there's a lot of sliding, there's a lot of physics-based stuff, there's no fall damage, so you just leap off waterfalls and come crashing down on dudes. There's some good stuff in there. I really like it.
But we have to remember as well that Titanfall 2 was fantastic.
Titanfall 2 is the best shooter in the generation.
It was just marketed so badly and released in such a piss poor time slot.
Yes.
That it was just they basically walked it out to its own death.
It was literally sandwiched in between. There was a fortnight, a 2-week time period, and it was Call of Duty first, and a week later it was Titanfall, and a week later it was Battlefield. It might have been the other way around for Battlefield COD. But yeah, it was right in the middle. It didn't stand a chance, even though Titanfall 2 was so promising. But anyway, this is all besides the point. Apex Legends came out, is currently blowing up Twitch, is one of the most viewed games or whatever since launch. And then that was the assumption behind the scenes. A lot of the write-ups from the likes of Kotaku said, maybe this is what, or this seems to be what Titanfall 3 turned into.
Yeah.
But then Vince Zampella, who's the Respawn's creative director, or Apex Legends creative director, went on Twitter and said that there's still more to come. There's more Titanfall coming for the rest of the year, and he referred to it as a premium Titanfall experience. And he said we like to experiment with the Titanfall lore, the Titanfall universe. So I'm like, that sounds so much like not a Titanfall 3.
Exactly.
But
I also take that statement as kind of a bit offensive because I don't know if you remember, but they spent hours and hours detailing all this vast world and universe for Titanfall, and then all it did was it just popped up in the background a little bit. Do you remember? There was that lovely example when there's these alien creatures in the background of one of the levels, and I can't remember.
Do you mean the very first Titanfall?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And there was one of these big Twitch players was playing it, and he was like, what's their story? I want to know what's going on over there. I don't care about what's going on over here.
I've got a gun right here, mate. You don't want to shoot stuff?
Yeah, but the mechs and stuff are fine, but at the same time, the world building. So when I see that's we want to go into the rich lore of Titanfall 2, so you mean the stuff that you chucked in the bloody background in the first game you couldn't even bother to flesh out, unless you bought a bloody book that was 50 extra bloody quid.
Oh, no one played Titanfall 1. I think that the way that they went with Titanfall 2 was to streamline, obviously, the combat, the multiplayer is great. Yeah. One of the things that what do you call it? Drew McCoy is the name of the lead programmer for Apex, and he said that Apex Legends is meant to kind of show what can happen in the Titanfall universe.
Yeah.
basically Apex is their Hunger Games. It's set in the future of the franchise or the world, where you've got all these different celebrity characters baying for blood and taking each other out. So there is that. They're trying to get back to it.
Well, it's definitely been a good way to get people interested in the franchise, I suppose.
It's a great way to get people interested in a franchise about giant mechs that doesn't have any giant mechs in.
Well, I was you before I played, but
You were definitely not me, mate. I was much
entirely
cooler
you.
than
My
you'll ever
hair
be.
fell out and everything.
Yeah,
but
right.
like the whole point of the Apex Legends, they deliberately didn't call it that so that it could kind of stand on its own. Because I was like, what's the point?
And I'm completely understanding of that. It's great, but then don't use that to then springboard back into Titanfall 3. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because it's kind of like, hey guys, this isn't actually Titanfall, but you should play this game anyway. Oh, it's getting lots of attention. Actually, it is Titanfall. I
don't think they're not saying that it is, but like the Rage makes a great point because Titanfall 2's player numbers were disastrous. Like it was about 650 people were online if you went to try and do matchmaking, which I do every few weeks because I love that game. But since Apex Legends came out, that shot back up to around about 10,000.
Yeah.
So if people can say, oh, well, I like this game, that I've never played Titanfall before. Oh, there's a third one coming out. I'll probably check that out. So that's probably like a good plan.
Yeah, and I think they've retroactively been going back to Titanfall 2, which is still on the PlayStation Store for £30, which is kind of getting in the way of the old impulse buy.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But at least though, like for me, I want more eyes on Titanfall overall. So I hope that they put this out as a way to sort of, like cast more spotlight on the overall franchise.
Sure.
Point being that Mr. Zampella said that something premium Titanfall related is coming. What do you guys think that
Probably
is?
not Titanfall 3. Probably
Maybe not.
Maybe
card collecting?
Maybe a Titanfall loot box inspired weekly event for FIFA.
Oh,
Actually, if you could drop a goddamn Titan on a FIFA pitch, I'd buy that.
What if it's an Anthem tie-in? Because that's there with a mech thing, and then just Anthem mech flies in.
I keep forgetting about it.
Free DLC for Anthem that lets you have a Titanfall suit.
Oh, if you can get BT4 or whatever he's called with his thumbs up, that might make me play Anthem.
Yeah, fair enough.
Maybe.
Fair enough.
So the next thing, we're going to have a bit of a Nintendo deviation because there's some huge Nintendo news going on. So the first one is just that there's another Nintendo Switch coming later this year.
I called this as soon as the Nintendo Switch came out and I held it in my hands. I was like, give it a couple of years and we'll have the Switch XL. I mean, that's not confirmed, is it? It's not an XL.
It's confirmed it's confirmed in as much as Nintendo apparently told suppliers to expect another new Switch.
Yeah, it's going to be an XL.
Yeah.
See, okay, so a lot of the rumors are that it's actually the opposite, that they're making something that plays more into the fact that it's been embraced by a lot of children, that it gets played outside quite a lot. So they're making something that is a harder shell, like it'll be something that you could take outside.
Have you ever been to like a phone case store and they've got those tablets and they're big shaped like butterflies and that? It's going to be that, isn't it?
Because what was it? They did 3DS XL, and then they did the 2DS. Is that what it's called?
They did. So the two, like the thing is with those is it was proven that
no, the
they
fixed
did.
screen.
So
Yes.
it was just called the 2DS, and it was just sort of like on the one screen, but then they did the 2DS XL, which was basically the size of the 3DS, but it didn't play it in 3D. But with kids, like bigger was better because they weren't like squinting on these tiny wee screens. So I don't think making it smaller is a good idea.
But having it so that it might just be a big fixed unit that is more chunky to hold, probably. Like not having the Joy-Cons detachable
the Joy-Con
or something that they're like fixed in.
I think you get it where it's attached because there's not that many games that need the Joy-Cons to be disconnected. In fact, even stuff that uses like motion controls like waggle and stuff like World of Goo, you can still play that handheld on the screen.
It would turn the experience into something that's a solo player because obviously if you can't take the Joy-Cons out, it means that you won't be able to play like Binding of Isaac or like Mario Kart or something
Mario
like that.
Party, Pokemon.
Yeah, but if they have ways to go around that, and maybe it's just not their prerogative anymore. Maybe they're just like, right, enough people have a Switch so that this is just for the kids.
Well, a little budget version.
Yeah, well, they've been winding down sales on the 3DS. I think that's all but been discontinued now.
I don't know. They said like even after Switch was like taken off, they said they would still support the 3DS, but I haven't. When was the last big 3DS game?
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like I think that they maybe want this other little kind of side version of a Switch to kind of like satiate the handheld market, and then in a way that feeds back up to getting you the proper Switch, which is slightly bigger.
The 2D Switch.
Maybe.
The S stands for Switch.
So I quite like the idea because everyone knows that one friend who's got the bulletproof big thick phone case that just like bounces off the floor and it's fine. So I think that everyone, they kind of need to well, they can make a Switch that could cater to that market. Because I take my Switch on the go.
The paranoid market.
I'm the most paranoid man. I want one.
Get a case for it.
Well, there's that, but I want one that I can manually buy. I want to code it so that anyone tries to get it who's not me, it can zap them. Because I don't trust anyone to not take it off me when I'm playing on the train.
What games are you playing?
It's not about the games, it's about the system. If I'm just sitting playing my Switch, I'm just so aware that I'm holding a 300 quid thing
This is actually tangential to the podcast. But we had the discussion, didn't we, last week about you being an only child getting what you wanted. This is your fear of somebody taking away Scotty's things, isn't it? Scotty's things have got to be protected.
They're my things now. Do you not think though when you play something you haven't got a Switch, have you? So you haven't had to hold the beauty of the Switch.
I've also got 3 half brothers who are younger. So even if I did, it would be out of my hands.
Well, there you go. So you're used to getting stuff nicked off. You've got siblings as well, so you're used to this thing. I don't think it's that. I think my thing is that I'm so aware that I'm holding a deluxe product in my hands, and so I want something that. I'm always going to assume that maybe I'm going to drop it. It's going to be in my bag in the wrong angle. It's going to crack the screen. I think of these things. I don't know if anyone else just.
So there you go. There is a market for a very hardy Switch. There you go.
I want a thing that is complete. I can bounce it off the ground. I can reliably just throw it in my bag.
Why would you bounce it off?
That's the thing.
Test it.
It's like Scott's mind is kind of let's protect this something to the nth degree just so that I can smash it. It's
Point being.
Yeah. Anyway.
Point being though that if you look at the way the Joy-Cons connect to the Switch, there's already been a lot of reports that the Joy-Cons just have slowly kind of slid off. A couple of the guys in the office already had their Joy-Cons just slide off the side of the screen.
No way.
And so I think that it would be cool for them to have a reliable form factor for the whole thing. They've already changed the. It was something like the analog rubber or what the outside of the Joy-Cons made of. They sort of tweaked a little thing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a way for them to do it. Something like the lovely PS Vita is a lovely little bulletproof gem. So just go down that.
I think that it makes perfect sense as well for Nintendo to do that because their sort of secular market cycle is that they will just go here's the big game, here's something small in between. It's like an interim step. It's kind of like their version of the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X or whatever it is.
Yeah, they've actually been doing this weird iterant approach to it for way longer than the bigger companies.
But it's quite funny because, isn't it, their way of doing it is they go, here's the big thing, and here's the stand-in thing, which is actually kind of lesser, whereas the other guys are just it's this one, but it's better. Whereas everyone's just let's
buy it again.
I've just figured out what it's going to be.
Go on.
It's going to be a Switch. It's going to be in every way exactly the same to what we've got.
Right.
But it's going to have an audio jack in it.
Oh, there you go.
Voice chat all the way. So this leads us into the other half of the Nintendo Rumours, which is how Nintendo Switch Online is going to go forward.
Sure.
Now, I reckon that I've cracked this because data miner Kapu found a whole bunch of code inside the latest update for Nintendo Switch Online that showed that SNES games were going to be coming.
Finally, oh my god!
I
know.
So that's
how many years since it was? It's like
March 17 it came out.
Yes. Well, it's been a while since the actual Switch's release date, and everyone just wants the Switch to be
all we want is a virtual console on it that we can just carry around
everything.
and
So I think I've found these things. So Mr. Kapu dove in, found the fact that SNES games or SNES code was in there, and then another data miner called Oatmeal Dome, who was not Jules, dove in and found 2 more emulators hidden inside the code. So there's 3 things to take away from this. One is that the SNES stuff is potentially coming very soon because that was the one that was most spelled out. Apparently there was examples of different games that had been tested through the emulator all in the code. Okay. So the likes of Mario World was in there, Ocarina, Link to the Past, F-Zero, all that kind of stuff. So react to this. What do you guys think of SNES being on the Switch as
I think it makes perfectly, it makes perfect sense because it's one of their best-selling consoles that they've ever made. It's got one of the most rabidly loyal fan bases in terms of the titles that are there. People staunchly defend titles on that games console over any game harder.
As the best console of all time. Maybe.
TM, not copyrights.
Yes, that is a Jules phrase from the beginning to now.
Trump this situation.
What do you think of SNES things?
I just think about time. I mean, I got the mini SNES.
Sorry, I thought you were going to talk about something existential. Then I just got me thinking about time. How we're all just getting older and we're just getting
play all these games.
About time, lads. I got the mini SNES. So when they announced they were having NES titles, I was like, well, I got the mini NES. I don't really know that.
There is that.
So. But hey, about time.
It's weird because we've already bought them multiple times already. I bought the SNES Classic. I already bought things like Mario World on the Virtual Console.
I mean, I'm going to buy Mario World again. I'm going to buy Donkey Kong Country again.
I think going forward, it seems like the next generation overall is embracing legacies. We've already seen Xbox moving towards it with backwards compatibility. If the patent is true about the PS5, then that plays everything. Yep. And then now Nintendo are potentially going forward with you just play all of Nintendo's stuff. The only potential knockback on the business side is that they can't sell you those games again. This is the last time they can do it because you'll buy the license for it or you'll be able to put an old cartridge in or download it again, or whatever. and you'll just have access to that game going forward.
Well, until they release the next console and it's absent from
it would assumedly be the thing. They're doing a unified Nintendo Switch Online, so you get Nintendo Switch Online's version of Mario World, like how you have Mario 3.
Well, that's fine too, right? And then, like, I mean, I'm all for like remastering the past, but then maybe they can move on and make some new IPs.
More Splatoon, I might say. So another point from that whole array of emulators that came out. Point 2, which ties into another thing from back in October last year, is that Nintendo are developing a wraparound case for the Switch, which is a Game Boy case. This is something that I sent you guys the link, but I can just describe it anyway. It's basically, like I said, a wraparound case for the Switch if it was undocked, and it wraps around the screen and has just looks like the original old school Game Boy with a little hole for the screen, and you have the buttons on it, but obviously they would just push the touch sensitive screen and you can just play Game Boy games through that.
I cannot think of a more gimmicky thing than that.
I love it.
Like,
I mean, this is Nintendo.
I mean, yes, because they did this already, or people have already done it for mobile phones. That makes more sense to me than this, because when I think of the Switch, for some reason, my mind isn't really that geared up about or that jacked about playing Game Boy games on the Switch. I'd rather play the SNES. I would rather play the sort of other stuff. I don't know. Like it seems to be like too far a step back for me. Personally.
I think the way that I'm like totally jazzed to revisit those games.
I would love to replay Mario 6 Golden Coins. Like, tell you what, like.
But wouldn't you want to play it on a bigger screen using the controllers that are already on the side?
Yes, in normal landscape orientation.
Because that's the thing, if they're putting it on this small screen, when the Super Game Boy, which you could get as an adapter for the SNES, let you play it on widescreen with customizable borders and stuff like that. Why wouldn't I prefer that? You could even put it. You could even turn the color palettes on for them. Like you could colorize.
So nice.
Yes, so that is a better product right now than this.
Well, the assumption is that they would do both. Like you would, I mean, on Nintendo Switch Online now, if you just dock the system, it makes sense for them to do both. You could play Mario 3, Mario 1, everything that's on the Switch Online collection right now in lovely HD on your big 55-inch screen, and it looks ridiculous, but you can. And so I think if they did this, then if you dock the system when it's in the middle of a Game Boy game, assuming that they would call back to something like that, and you could play like Pokemon Red on a 55-inch TV.
Which would be fantastic.
I would take that. So it seems like Nintendo are kind of developing something that, like you guys said, like is kind of a mobile accessory already. Like the idea of like custom buttons or that kind of thing.
That just seems like a gimmick thing to me.
Nintendo love a gimmick though. Like, look how much they brought out for the Wii.
Yeah. Like all those weird casings that we had to sell at retail.
There was one that was a tennis racket. Literally did nothing but look like a tennis racket.
Every single sport had a separate one.
There was, wasn't there like a crossbow for Link's
the
crossbow?
Zapper.
Yep.
Yeah,
the
Zapper. They couldn't call a gun because it's Nintendo. So it's like, what can we call it? A Zapper. But near enough. So that's point 2, is that another one of the emulators in there is potentially going to play Game Boy games, which makes sense in terms of the timeline because they've done NES stuff and then SNES and then Game Boy would be next, I think, in terms of Nintendo history. And point 3 is that the other emulator, because there's 4 discovered in total, NES, SNES, Game Boy, and the 4th one is N64.
Oh, right, okay.
And so that's the assumption anyway.
Okay.
Because Nintendo renewed their patent for N64 games back in May last year. So either that is the N64 Mini or that they're all coming to Nintendo Switch Online.
Either way, that's going to be fantastic.
Either way, yeah.
So I think, what would you guys rather see? I think they'll actually do both because you've got NES and SNES Minis and then Nintendo Switch Online.
Well, the Nintendo 64 Mini makes sense.
Yes.
It's from a marketing perspective, it's one of their most popular consoles. Again, with an incredibly loyal fan base that will gladly buy it again. Yes. If they could up it so that it carries on the same physical design as the N64 and has 4 controller ports, then we might actually get the multiplayer experience that a lot of people have been demanding from these mini releases that haven't really been.
The controllers can't be mini though; they pretty much have to be full size. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to hold that.
I'm this is just from a personal vindication standpoint. I'm a huge fan of GoldenEye.
Okay.
In principle, it was.
Don't go back to it now.
I love it. Like,
this is the thing. Like when I played it as a kid, like with my cousin, like it was fantastic, and I remember it brilliantly. But when I went back to it and played it fairly recently, a couple of months ago,
Birmingham?
Yeah, we did, and we were just we were like, oh, okay, this is actually not as good as I remember.
No.
And I'm looking forward to, in a very dark, horrible way, loads of people going like, mate, come around and play GoldenEye. So they're like. Is everyone still having fun, guys?
Just kind of letting it go.
Just walking into the corner. Just so like, how do you turn this bloody thing around? What's the second
analog
analog
stick? It's like you move with the right stick or something.
And then
there is no right stick. There was C buttons.
And then it dawning on people as they slowly lift up the controller and be like, maybe this isn't the greatest design controller. Maybe this weird banana middle finger isn't.
There's no proper way to hold the controller. It doesn't matter. That's a debate for another time. But yeah, I think the N64 stuff makes sense because in terms of the average file size of an N64 game, I think all of them would be around about the 500 meg mark-ish. So it's like that's one of the last sort of generations they can do in bulk, where they can just sort of go, here's a massive downloadable packet, and here's, I don't know, Ocarina, Mario Kart, whatever, and you get all of them the same way you do in the NES and SNES kind of way.
All I know is that you can, through nefarious means, get every single SNES game ever made for free in a zipped file that it comes in at 400 megabytes.
That's adorable.
All the SNES games,
every single thing. and all the NES games come in at 30.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
Fun technological fact: if you take an image of the Legend of Zelda logo now, like an HD one, it's bigger than the game was when it first released, like in terms of the file size, because the original game is like 64 kilobytes, and like that's obviously incredible. An HD image is a lot bigger. So how far we've come as people. But not to worry. So it seems like the N64 is at least coming in some form, whether that's the mini or hopefully gets attached to Nintendo Switch Online.
I'm in.
I am definitely in. I'd be interested to see where they go after that, if they end up doing GameCube or DS or whatever.
New games?
Maybe not. Didn't watch Splatoon 3. No. Ice Climbers 2. I don't even know what they would do as a new thing. But I'll take more new stuff.
Also, isn't the mini GameCube just the GameCube?
Yeah,
it was just tiny. It was just tiny.
This little handle to take between your friends' place.
Although I actually would love the idea of being able to clip on, like with the little handle, you clip it onto your keys and have a mini GameCube. So it's even smaller.
Like a little Raspberry Pi. You just plug it in. Just do exactly that. Anyway, something else that's coming, which Josh already covered as a solo news thing, but I think it's worth dipping into because it's just damn cool, is that the Resident Evil 3 remake is apparently also coming and is in development alongside Resident Evil 8.
They would be so dumb not to make that. They have to.
It was,
2 was amazing. I hear 3 is even better.
Oh, 3 is bellissimo.
So this came from an insider called Evil VR, who said that the Capcom are already in development for Resident Evil 8, but they won't release 8 until after Resident Evil 3's remake.
That makes perfect sense to me. Capitalise on all of this fresh wave that's coming up. It will actually be quite easy for them to transplant what they've already made, because Resident Evil 3, for those of you
I don't know.
It's my favourite one.
But it's they used quite a fair few assets from the second game, and the fact that they've already really done the sort of legwork for Mr. X in this one means that they can transplant that over to Nemesis.
He comes back.
No.
Nemesis is a.
I hate him. I hate him so much.
Nemesis is kind of like a permanent Mr. X, but with added tentacles and a rocket launcher.
Oh my god!
Yeah, he's amazing.
If they do that thing in the game where, because basically whenever he finds you, if he sort of hems you in, you get this like pulse pounding like slow motion thing where everything goes negative, the color palette switches, and you get to pick what you want to do. I think
push him off of a bridge.
Yeah, it's like push him out the way or make him.
I'm not good with pressure.
And that happens all the time. That's why I love it. It's so in the moment. Like
that's amazing.
All I remember is the music. It just goes no, and then it always just him just goes stars.
Just him on his way, being the biggest goth on the planet.
I love him.
I bet he's into blooming While She Sleeps. I can't think of anyone who just had a bad sort of name, but I do like While She Sleeps. I was going to go down the route of push someone down the stairs. You know when someone takes the mick out of metal and they just say something like that?
Oh yeah, your nan fell down the stairs.
Yeah. that tends to be the thing. But yes, Resident Evil 3 Remake seems to be coming, but we'll hopefully get it alongside or before Resident Evil 8. Another thing, which is just something I'm throwing in because of the Onimusha remake, is that Capcom have then been readdressed as to the reality of Onimusha 5. Because obviously Onimusha is kind of back being talked about again.
Yes.
And the remake was very solid.
It's so.
Yes.
I love Onimusha.
Good. Me too.
Love the franchise. Think that they managed to balance it being ridiculous and it being a really good action survival horror game.
Yes.
But there is one problem, and that is I don't think the franchise has got enough steam behind it. When Onimusha, this remake, came out, I don't think that it got the sales that maybe Capcom were hoping for, because they did kind of do it as kind of a quiet-ish release. There was a few trailers here, there was an announcement, and then it was already on our doorstep. True. I don't know if they can justify bringing it back just on the weight of that, because I'm not sure what the sales figures are.
Yeah, I haven't gone back to the sales too much, but Capcom were being interviewed by, I think it was The Sun, and they said that Onimusha 5 was worth considering. And that came after Yoshinori Ono said that conversations are happening at high levels in regards to Onimusha, but that was last year. So that might have been about the remake.
It's a fantastic franchise, but it's just one of those things where it possibly needs a rebooting, as it were, because it's been so long since the sort of third and fourth games that I feel like maybe it's got a lot of moss on it.
Dawn of Dreams just didn't do anything.
No.
I mean, if even you guys are not excited, then who is going to be?
I'm psyched, but it's like for the original trilogy.
I'm excited, but it's one of the very few times where I would actually say it probably would be beneficial to start from the ground up again.
Oh, well, there you go.
Maybe. I mean, they did Onimusha Tactics was a thing as well, just to try and get the name going. But yeah, if you watch the original...
They had an Onimusha Smash Bros. Claim.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, that stupid battle thing.
Yep.
Battle Warriors.
That was weird. That was weird.
Either way, if you go back and you watch Onimusha 3's opening cinematic, or just play those original games, they're still, yes, chef's kiss. They're absolutely lush. And I think that there's something there to bring back. I mean, this year we're getting Sekiro and Neo 2. So, like I said before, the whole, big love for the Eastern sort of architecture
and Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes, and Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, so many samurais and ninjas and...
Anyway, Zelda. Big old Zelda. So this is a thing, this is something that you pointed out, that we're on the 2-year cycle. It's been 2 years since Breath of the Wild, and Nintendo haven't missed their 2-year window in a while.
I think it was ever since Majora's Mask, not Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, I'm going to say. There has been a Zelda title every 2 years.
Yes.
And Breath of the Wild was in 2017.
So there's a few things to this, because one thing that was rumored last year was that we're getting a full-on Link Between Worlds style upgrade of Link's Awakening, so that will be the thing, but that will be on 3DS. But Nintendo don't make 3DS things anymore, so it might be something that's on the Switch. If you go to the comments from producer Eiji Aonuma, he said that they love the non-linearity of Breath of the Wild, and it seems like that's the direction they're going. He also confirms to IGN that it is in development. So that was as early as, I think, the start of last year. So it seems like they're on track to hit the 2019 release date. But the question then is... Go on.
However. When was Breath of the Wild announced? 2015?
Yeah.
It was something like that.
We finally got it in 17. So I don't know if it's going to come out this year. I definitely think it's going to be announced this year. Yeah.
One thing that's interesting is that he said that they feel like they've moved on. Or in the older Zelda games, they had this big mentality of this is maybe a weird translation, but they said that they always wanted to make sure that the challenger, i.e. the player, was being challenged. Which is hence why you got the likes of the dungeons and the more linear focus. Here is the puzzle you must solve.
Oh, you mean those things that we really, really liked? Yeah.
Nah. Dungeons? No. Do you want some more? Do you want a motorbike?
Go on.
But yeah, so he said that that's essentially what they've moved on from with Breath of the Wild, and once you've done that, they said they don't want to go back again. So I think whatever the next Zelda will be, but there's a lot of comments in the same article. It's all from I think it's the IGN write-up. Him saying that they're still trying to figure out how to do this new Zelda, and Breath of the Wild was a first step towards whatever the new
I have some
franchise
thoughts
identity.
on how they should make the new Zelda.
Do you not like the Breath of the Wild? It's the best
No. I love Breath of the Wild, right?
I don't think you do.
I love it on its own.
Yes.
On its own. I love it.
Good.
Literally, this is a coincidence.
I know, I've got the same shirt.
But the next one needs to be different.
Ooh, does it?
Because they have done the sandbox. Now the next one needs to have dungeons again, and it needs to have a populated world again, right? Breath of the Wild was populated.
It was very sparse.
It was also.
No.
So my theory is, because it was made for the Wii U, now if they're making one for the Switch, they can really go all whole hog.
That's a very good point. Because one of the things that gives away the fact of just how much it was entirely meant to release on the Wii U, and it feels like the Switch port kind of came way too late in development, is the inventory management. It clearly fits a second screen, all the different tile-based stuff, and constantly, because you had to do a thing in Breath of the Wild where you hold the D-pad, cycle through with the right stick, let go. That's what you're equipping. Things that would be way easier on a second tablet screen.
All I would say is Nintendo, while they are very weird people, they are very good.
And wonderful.
All the Nintendoans. Yes.
They're very good at capitalizing on the strength of the particular console that they release their first party titles on.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that you think of when you think of the Switch? For me, it's portability.
Yeah, portability.
So I would like to see them move forward with the Zelda franchise in something that actually relates back to that. And there's no better example of that than I can think of than Pokemon Go. I know it sounds weird, but bear with me here. What if you actually had to do some walking to go to the dungeon in order to actually play it? Or I'm just saying,
it's not a bad idea.
You know what I mean? Moving around, gets you outside, and Nintendo love that sort of.
They do,
stuff,
and they've already. Oh god, there's a few things that slip into place with that, because they do have the Sheikah Slate, the additional tablet thing. There's official covers you can get for your phone that turns your phone into the Sheikah Slate. Whatever. If they did something like that, then that would be a way to sort of. It depends how well the Pokemon Go additional tracker thing sold. Rach bought one.
I did buy one,
but I don't know if they would do that for a Zelda game.
I'm just saying that if they want to keep it, if they want to keep moving forward with it and do something completely different, they can balance expectations by having dungeons and having the things that you want, the tropes as it were, but delivering them in new ways. I mean, that what was it, Triforce Heroes?
Yes.
Where you had to have 3 other buddies and you could do that.
Excuse c'est moi, monsieur.
Somebody play it on his own. Somebody play it on his own.
Hey, you played it on your own?
I didn't play it. I don't want that.
It's very good.
Is it though?
I'm just saying that sort of connectivity might be a good way of getting people.
Maybe I was going to say when you mentioned portability, and that's what I loved about the shrines in Breath of the Wild was because you could sort of tackle one. It took you 5-10 minutes, and then you can dip in and out.
But there were too many of them. So the divine beasts were too small.
The divine beasts the divine beasts are the one thing that doesn't feel like as pristine as it could be. I still quite like them, but
because they spent so long making all these tiny little shrines, of which I've maybe found 50% in my 130 hours on Zelda.
Really, I've done like 120. I love them.
Too many pictures to take, too many things to explore. Anyway, literally, I feel like just really good big dungeons, like Ocarina of Time dungeons, with little shrines would be a good mix. But yeah, basically, I've already written about it all.
I know you have, and you can go check out the article version of how they should make the next Zelda, which might hopefully be becoming a video very soon. But though, one of the things, because I went back and played as many Zeldas as I could in the run up to Breath of the Wild, which was everything other than Minish Cap, and even that I did the first couple hours. But I tried to do as much as possible. And when you play them all through like that, you realize really how formulaic they are.
It's so formulaic.
Yeah, and I think that obviously that's a big boon, that's a big support, a big positive for the franchise and for the fan base. Sorry, but for me, I was like, man, I need them to move on. That's why I love Breath of the Wild so much.
Yeah.
So I think it's a balancing act. But things like they can bring back the hook shot, or they can give you like more like puzzle focused areas because they have little bits and pieces of that with the shrines and the beasts. Or whatever.
I actually call Breath of the Wild Breath of the Distractions. Like that is my pet name for it because it is so good. You can just you'll have a destination, but then instead of going from A to B, you'll go like A B C D E F G.
Yes, that's what I love though. Like I like that they sort of harness that explorative sensibility that you get at the start of like Ocarina or even Link to the Past. Like the first time you go into the outworld, the overworld, and it's like, okay, I have a marker over here, but I'm going to go talk to a villager and discover that I can get a bottle and get a fly and a fly. You get a firefly, but there's always these this whole of A to B.
Sorry, just when you just start I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna take on a quest. I'm gonna get a bottle. I'm gonna get a fly.
I put a fly in a bottle.
That does not sound like the most crazy quest.
No, you definitely put the water in the bottle. That's what you need.
Sorry.
You use it to kill the first boss in the Wind Waker.
Yes,
that kills. Anyway.
Yes.
News.
Yes, news. I think hopefully we'll get to see something relating to Zelda.
Yes.
Obviously, E3 is a bit of an open kind of open table because Sony have kind of backed away, and it seems like Microsoft are the ones going, we're just going to go in there and do what we do, but the other major player would be Nintendo. So if they roll in and go, hey, new Switch, hey, new Zelda.
Nintendo, though,
But that's all they have to do.
I think so.
It's like their first party titles are the reason why most people buy those Switch consoles. So you just go new Mario, new Zelda, console. See you next year.
They're E3 presents, though. They don't really have an E3 presence per se. They always do it pre-recorded, don't they? Yeah.
This could be the time for them to walk out and just be like, hey, by the way, Zelda.
That would be cool.
Well, they did that.
Drop the Switch and it survives.
Do you remember that when they did that, when he came out and he had the sword?
Yeah, and the shield.
Was that when he announced...
Shigeru Miyamoto?
No, what was the game he announced? It was Zelda.
Hyrule Warriors, was it?
Wasn't Hyrule Warriors.
It was the motion-controlled one. It was Skyward Sword.
Skyward Sword.
Yes, and everyone went mental for it.
I thought it was going to be so good.
That's the game where he tried to do a live demo and it just wouldn't keep up with him at all. One of the cringiest things you can watch, but it is kind of hilarious. But not to worry. The last thing I have on here is that the Xbox discless system is coming. That's one thing that has been confirmed.
Cool.
Yeah, do you not want that? Do you want an old streaming system?
Cool.
Do you want to buy?
That sounds fine.
It does sound fine.
Yeah, it sounds like you had to fill 8 points.
Well, I have 2 more.
Okay.
We're verging on the end of the show. We could have done.
It's interesting, obviously. There's the whole debate of physical versus digital, but
I do think that this is going to have a knock-on effect to the resellers market, which I personally will be impacted by because of the fact that I collect games in physical, not because of I want the super special editions or I like particularly having them physical media. The only thing I like about them is the fact that I can then sell them on when I'm finished with them or trade them in for another game.
When was the last time you did that though? When was the last time you went to a physical store?
I trade quite a lot personally because I'm not made of money, Scott.
Yeah, we don't all get that.
Mate.
WhatCulture editor gaming channel
I'm
money.
just saying, if I sweat the dollar,
those medium bucks.
Yeah, there's not really anywhere to go from that. Other than I don't think that the physical store is as thriving as it used to be.
No, not at all. But I'm just saying that it's the matter of choice.
Yes. Hence why I think it seems to be that Phil Spencer himself is talking a lot about the future of Xbox being this big streaming thing and Xbox being an app that you would get. And this is a potential way for them to test the waters with this. Because the actual full Xbox is hopefully going to be next year.
I mean, that could be easily the direction that Xbox goes for the digital market. Because, I mean, let's be honest, the games are better on PlayStation. So.
A little bit. John, PS5.
But I'm just saying, like, if Microsoft do move into that way and that's their big USP, then that is absolutely fine. They can capitalize on that and just be like, look, fine, if you don't want to have like libraries of games everywhere and collector's editions that just gather in dust, then just come over to Microsoft. We're fun, we're friendly, you can download us. Swipe right.
Maybe.
That is brilliant, yeah.
Well, anyway, not to worry, we are kind of out of time regardless of how many other bants I may or may not have. But this has been the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. I've been your host, Scott Tilford, joined by Rachel Shackleton.
Thank you for listening.
And joined by Jules Gill.
Follow me at RetroJ with the 0 over on Twitter.
For goodness sake.
Every time with the twits.
Every time.
Jules Shill. We'll catch you next time, though.
Bye, guys. Bye.